just sai become amazing. You know, like that story is so much more exciting than like, slowly transit 3 years
no one
into the
likes to
next
watch
thing.
a fire
Yeah,
slowly go bigger.
exactly,
They
right?
want to
As
see
a-
the boom.
Yeah, exactly, right? So
Hey, we pop at the same time.
Exactly. We are. Welcome back to Wise and Shine. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, SG Budget Babe. Today we have a really special guest. So you see this handsome guy sitting next to me. You might have seen him on TV, maybe sometime next to Joseph Schooling. And he is...
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Sheng Jun, and I used to be a national swimmer for Singapore, and now I'm a financial consultant.
So what stopped?
I think swimming slow stopped. The moment I started like declining in my performance, I think that's where I called it. Yeah.
Were you called out for it, or do you call it to quit?
I think as in initially the plan was to swim until 2024. But I was training, like the harder I trained, like the times just wasn't as fast as I wish it was. So then from there I was like, okay I think it's time lah. Like my body called it time lah.
And you were swimming for a really long time, right? I mean, since I knew you, you were already a swimmer. How long did you spend in that career?
Correct. So actually Dawn and I met since I think 2015, right?
I don't remember. Long time ago.
Correct. So I've been swimming for about 24 years lah.
24 years?
Yeah, ever since 6 years old. So because I had childhood asthma, so then the doctor recommended
what a good
me.
reason to swim. So, you asthma, swim more.
Yeah.
The doctor probably didn't figure out that you go on to be a national swimmer.
Exactly.
Okay?
I think the doctor just wanted you to work out a bit more, right?
I think
Train
that was
the breathing.
that was the initial plan lah. But then I think one of my childhood coaches saw the potential, and then for me growing up as a kid, I was quite active also lah. So I wanted to channel my energy in a positive way. So I think swimming was what really clicked with me lah.
So what is a negative way to channel energy?
I think okay, so well, very so
Fighting.
I think yeah.
Of course.
You is it?
Yes. No, I very quiet one.
Is it?
So-
You believe?
Don't comment.
Who believes that Reggie was a quiet cat during school years?
Don't comment. Yes.
So for me, I think growing up, fun fact was that I was active as a kid. So usually my house had a gate last time. I really wanted to go out and work out, whether it was badminton or swimming. Badminton, swimming, basketball were the three sports that I grew up with lah. So then usually when my parents would bring me to either the pool or the court to play, then when they were not home, I would try to go myself. So then they will lock the gates, but I would break the gate handles. So then I would just keep breaking. So from young, I think I broke about 3 to 4 handles just by keep doing like this. So
Lucky you're not my kids, yeah.
yeah. So after every time I remember like I recently only told my mom about this, but when I broke the gate, right, then I kind of like put it back.
Then the mother come over. What?
So like only I think recently like last year or something I told my mom, actually last time the gates I kind of broke them. My mom was like, "What? No wonder like every
Always
trip
break.
I just took out the handle."
Hey, Han, very bad quality. Yeah. We need to get better gates. Actually, it's your time.
Yeah, crazy. Man, I used to break the Wi-Fi password, but that's a different story. Okay, so
Hey, but wait, you started from
requires a lot of
6.
skill,
I didn't know. So which means you started learning to swim at 6, or you started your career at 6?
Started learning to swim at 6. Then from there I think 1 or 2 years I went competitive.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I only
Great.
learned how to swim primary 3. Yeah.
it's okay. Nobody's interested whether you swim. You're not competitive. I also
mean, it's a good
swim.
skill
Also,
to
no
have.
one cares, right?
Good skill
If
to
at
have.
Tampines Hub, you can say hi lah. But anyway, and I think that's an interesting build up, because today what we want to discuss is like, when do you quit? Like, when do you call it quits? Right? Like as people trying to make life, trying to find the life they love and kind of break through in their careers or in whatever that they do, relationship, all that jazz, right? At some point, we need to call it quits, right? But this thing is a very ambiguous type of thing, right? Like so when do you actually call it quits, right? And there's always this myth of like, maybe the next cut is the king, maybe the next thing is the thing. So biased, right? So
And if you go back to a previous episode, we also talk about resilience, greed, not giving up. But when do you then?
Yeah, when do you actually give up, right?
Yeah.
So I think, and that's the question for today, right? So and you gave up quite a big thing in your life, right? For 20 over years.
Yeah. So I think there were many factors. Like, I wouldn't say that like one factor affected not really affected, but made me quit. But I think there were a series of events that happened, and also a lot of factors lah. So maybe if I can slowly break it down.
Yeah.
Break down.
We have all the time in the world.
Yeah, so,
not really. We got 40 minutes.
So I think for me, leading up to, like I mentioned initially, the plan was, I even talked to my coaches, like saying, oh, let's aim for Paris, because Paris is just next year. So then 2021, I was like, okay, I was like somewhat going in an upward trajectory, but it wasn't quite there. So it's like training would have been good, but competition was always like a bit flat. So I think that one of the factors was really weighing out how much stress it was having on my body, both physically and mentally. So I think one of the reasons was that my parents were actually always following my swimming journey. And then I don't know whether all Asian parents are like that, but usually Asian parents are more like, we very well bonded with their children. So then for me, like my
Bonded or bounded?
Bonded. I want to be very clear.
Different. Okay, right. The parent every time comes, I'm not sure I'm bonding with you, but I'm bound with you, right? Like, it's like you're always with me.
So growing up, like I mentioned, I was swimming since 6. I was very, very close with my parents. So they would follow all my swimming journey and everything. And equally as stressed because they are watching me race. When I was training like 5 hours a day, my dad would be waiting by the poolside, because I was training in sports school that time. So then we stay in the east. So sports school to east was about half an hour. So my dad would wait at the pool for me for like 2 hours and then fetch me home and then fetch me there again. So that was the kind of life he was living. So I think that there was quite a lot of weight on my shoulders. I mean, it's all self, like what I put on myself, right? Ultimately, like stress is really, we can control stress. And I think that we are the ones that stress ourselves. For me personally, I stress myself quite a lot. So I think my dad, I felt a need to do my parents proud. Like every time when I hit home, my mom would prepare meals for me as well. Like, to make sure that my nutrition and everything's all there. So I think over time, when I wasn't doing well, my mom slowly tried to separate me as a person and me as a swimmer, so that she could in that sense put less stress on me. Because last time was when a good performance came, we will all celebrate together. Then after that, a bad performance came, then my dad's more chill, but my mom's more like, she cares. I wouldn't say my dad cares in a different way, my mom cares in a different way. So my mom would also be like equally as sad. So then I would feel like, oh wow, I disappointed my parents quite a lot lah. So I think as I grew older, like, our bodies, I don't have the same body as I have like maybe 24, 25. I was already 29, 30.
Now must stretch like mad.
Yeah,
if
correct.
not, wow, bang, the next day is like, what's going on?
And recovery rates were slower. So I think a series of competitions of like, there's one high, but then like 3 lows, 3 competitions that I don't do well. And I was like, wow, is this really worth it lah? So I think for me, that kind of ate into me. Like over time, I was like, should I continue? Like, we always talk about like grit, resilience. And I think one thing I want to bring up, the third point, is really knowing when to call it quits. Because there is a time whereby if we really go and we don't stop, it's like I wouldn't say it's a dying business, but something that is clearly not working out. If we still continue going, I have seen swimmers who kept going, not local swimmers, but overseas swimmers who kept going and going, but just can't quite find that same form they were in when during their younger days. So I think this was one of the reasons. And then what was the final straw for me, which made me know like, okay, this is time, is that my girlfriend, she's actually a badminton player, Jia Min. So initially we had different competition schedules. So she would go overseas, then I'll support her. Then when I had like competition, she would like support me as well. So then the final straw was SEA Games 2021, sorry. Whereby we both were like, hey, it's so fun, like SEA Games, we can go together, compete together. So then like, wow, gonna have so much fun. So we were looking forward to it so much. But leading up to it, I think I was stressing myself out a lot. And then, both athletes tend to get more stressed and nervous before competitions. So then at that point in time, I was like, actually, like, she's also stressed, I'm also stressed. So no one could kind of like support each other. We were still supporting each other, trying our best, but we could both tell that I was very nervous. So I think ever since then, I was thinking, she's starting out her career, whereas mine is like at the tail end. So the wise thing to do would be for me to stop with everything that's going on. And then I think one thing that she has taught me was that she allowed me to also separate my identity from swimming, like Sheng Jun the swimmer. but she kind of like treated me like a human being as well. Like, she saw me as an individual. And I mean, we're both Christians. I don't know whether this is, yeah, but
It's okay. You can
yeah.
say whatever you want. Go
So
for it.
yeah, we learn to put our identity as like children of God lah. So I think from there, that really gave me the courage to like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna call it quits and I'll be okay. Of course, there's still that worry, like, will I, how will the transition be and everything? But I think with all these factors really separating my identity, knowing that even if I were to retire, my parents will still love me, my friends will still love me, Jiamin will still love me. So I think that really gave me
So
that
is that
courage.
true?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No, it's true.
Is it
It's
true?
really true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
fact,
no, but I think people are
yeah.
more concerned like how the dad can spend 5 hours at the pool every day.
Yeah, that's
it's
why,
like what your dad do.
Because they are not a dad themselves.
No, but my dad, like sometimes, when I'm swimming, sometimes he's always at the gallery sitting down and watching me train. So sometimes I will see him like fall asleep. Then I was like, I better swim faster to like make sure I'm doing well. So I think those are some things that I really miss lah. Not really we always talk about the results. Like, everything is very results driven. How many gold medals do you win? How many competitions you go to? But I think the things I bring back now are the processes, like the people that I've met, the memories that we have created, how tightly bonded my family together. So I think that all these are the things that I really hold dear to me today lah. Not really so much the
I think one big
results.
question people usually have is, as sports people, especially when you're like national representatives for the country, right? We all know sportsmanship is about half your mental resilience, your attitude, what goes on in your brain, what you tell yourself, and the other half is your physical limits. So
not celebrity vibes. These days, all sports people are celebrities. All like influencer.
They want bonus, the side thing, but mainly 50% mental, 50% physical, right? If you had to attribute a number to it, how much would you say was your percentages that led you to decide, okay, it's time to say goodbye? Is it like maybe 30% mental, like, you could have still done it, you could have still pushed yourself, you can still tell yourself, no, I will get in there, I will increase my timing, but at a certain stage your body also has certain limits, right? So how much of it was really the mental versus physical struggle?
I think that it was, I would say 100% physical. Like I wasn't, like I was training the same. I was in fact trying to do more to try to go to that same level, but I just wasn't hitting it. In terms of the mental aspect, like I think I mentioned just now, it was more of I needed the courage to retire. Because if I could turn back, not really, I always don't like to look back on what I could. I will look back on what I could have done better, but I don't let it get to me.
How do you not let it get to you?
I think to know that, like, to be grateful for all the, like, there's always in every situation, there's a good and there's a bad. I choose to look at the good lah. So like, so for example, like I know if I retired because my performance from 2018 onwards wasn't there already. So if I, like, people would say, hey, do you wish that you would have retired like ever, like back in 2018 where, high and everything, 2017 high lah. Yeah. Then I look back, I'm like, well, that could have been a perspective, but there's always good things to focus on lah. Like, because I only met Jiamin in 2020, right? So if I hadn't continued, we wouldn't have met through sport again. And I think that is something that I choose to focus on. So I think it's an active choice. Like I could have said, oh yeah, if I stop on a high, it's so nice. But then again, like in every bad situation, we can always find the good.
But this is on some level a survival thing, right? Like it's on some level a survival bias, right? At the end, when you're out of it, then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, these are some good things. You don't reminisce on like what is bad in that sense. Yeah, in that sense, because I feel like people should sit together with the failures. Yeah. And like sit with it and and grieve about it. And I think it's better. To me, I think it's much better than just hiding it away or like just kind of like just focus on the good, right? Because I think focusing on what didn't work out is also a great insight into first principles of like how are you as a person, and certain games are just like winner takes all, right? Like sports is totally a winner takes all type of situation, right? So that maybe that game is just too crazy, right? So there's a lot of these kind of things that can come out as a result of sitting
Yeah.
with the failures and
Yeah.
not just focusing on like, oh yeah,
Mm.
you know, yeah.
Actually,
I got
that's
girlfriend,
a-
got wife,
yeah.
got kids soon. You know,
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's a very good perspective as well. I do agree. So
Mm.
what I do is usually I am aware of the grief and I'm aware of the happy moments. So I do give myself time to grieve. Like now, sometimes when I look back, yes, I still do revisit those moments of grief, like those moments I wish I could have done better. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to think about that for now. Like I give myself that space, 5 minutes. I think about it. I'm like, okay, then I think about the good points. So I always end with the good points. So I'm like, okay, I grieve and then I think about the good points. I think
Fair.
Interval
that
break.
helps.
This is where you guys should go back to the previous episode on Wise and Shine where we talk about emotion.
Oh yeah, that was a
Remember?
great episode.
Yes,
I love that episode.
and we talk about how you have to embrace sadness and
yes,
anger
yes,
because
yes.
it tells you so much about yourself instead of the typical response where you just shove it away.
Yeah,
you busy
yeah.
yourself, distract,
Yeah.
and don't
Yeah.
mull over it. Don't let yourself feel it. But no,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not always the
You
best
can use
way.
it well.
Yes,
Right?
Yeah.
All
exactly.
emotions can be used well. Right? It's just
Yeah.
how you use it.
Correct. And what you
Mm.
described just sounds exactly like a great, great point to inject that
But he
episode.
very
thing, but
efficient.
exactly
He's
it
grieving
is.
only 5 minutes. Only.
Oh, no, lah,
That's
I mean,
why I may
like,
grieve a
5
whole day.
minutes.
Oh, sian lah.
I mean, different people have like different.
Yeah, that's why I say
Different
efficient,
threshold.
right? So, yeah.
Hey, but it's okay to grieve for one day, really.
It's okay. 1 week also is okay lah. Until no more Netflix to watch, right? It's okay. It's fine. Yeah, but what about quitting on a high, right? Because I think there are three trajectories, right? When we think about quitting on something, right? So the trajectory, of course, the one is things are getting nowhere, right? Things are getting nowhere objectively. There are clear parameters, right? Like for an athlete, there's a clear parameter. If all the other people are qualifying at much faster pace, then you just cannot make it. You get out, lah, right? There's no easy way around these things, right? It's not like, I don't know, creative, like draw art pieces, maybe still, got some subjective elements. It's a bit hard, right? So things that are clearly lined up, you're not doing well, then you kind of have to go, right? So that's like a you end off.
Wait, but actually before you go into the quitting on a high, I want to ask, like, at the point where you decided it was time to quit, usually people go through this decision-making process whereby they're like, I think I can still push a bit more.
Yes.
And you get feedback because knowing when to quit and what you say is also that element of self-awareness. You recognize something. In this case, you said it was your physical limits, that you could go no further. But how long do you mull over that? Because technically you could have been in a situation whereby you just keep pushing, right? And then you keep trying, and each time you feel, no, you just keep trying again. So when exactly do you figure out, okay, that's enough. I've done my best. I think this is a sign. It's time to quit. How long was that process?
It was quite actually a few, 1 or 2 years of really thinking through it. I know there's I wanted that one more, to end on a high is always the most ideal situation. But I was also not really calculating but reflecting through okay, the stress that I will put not only on myself and my family. So I was like, okay, like I mentioned just now, I had maybe 3 bad meets and then 1 good meet. So how do I know whether I'll have another 4 bad meets to that 1 good meet? So during that 4 bad meets, is it going to hurt me a lot? It is lah. So I thought about it, right? For that 1 extra, just to quit on a high for not really bragging rights, but I so that I can tell myself I quit on a high.
Bragging rights lah. What's
Oh,
wrong? Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that it wasn't worth the stresses I will put on my loved ones lah. So then I just kind of okay lah. And also that slow process of Jiamin helping me recognize that my identity is not as a swimmer, but as a human being. Everything tied in together nicely. So I wasn't chasing that one last high before I went. And I was just like, you know what, whether I hit that high or not, I'm going to go happy lah.
Yeah, can I dig a little bit on the identity side of things? Right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I think for a lot of people, like quitting on some level, there's an element of you retiring, right? You quit from this. It's a little bit more powerful because you are in control, like you decided to quit it. And then there are other situations where you're thrown out of it, right? So you cannot quit it, right? So you have
Or
to do
another situation, you quit before you get thrown out.
Yeah, okay. You know what I'm saying, right? But either way, I think a lot of people, maybe in their careers, they've done for 10 years, 20 years, especially, pre-retirees. I think a lot of people struggle with this identity detachment kind of situation because you're so attached to it. Or I'm a banker, or I'm a lawyer. I've been doing this for 30 years. Now I'm a coffee shop uncle, right? Because I look, I see at the coffee shop, I drink coffee, I'm coffee shop uncle, right? But how do you detach that? No, or like tell me a little bit more about, because you keep talking about it, like detaching identity. You're human. You're not just a swimmer. Blah, blah, blah. How does that work?
Okay, so for me, I do reflect and I wouldn't say I overthink. I think everyone generally thinks a lot. So for me, I wanted to, like, I've read articles and I've seen like the current swimming world whereby quite a lot of, not really a lot lah, but there are swimmers that have fallen into depression because of that identity like crisis. So like I mentioned, I swam since I was 6 years old. So my life was like really 5 hours a day, 5 hours all the way. So then for me, during that 2018, 2019 period whereby I know that I was slowly growing older and older. So I was like, how am I going to separate my identity? I just couldn't find that method on the how lah. It's always easy to say, hey, you're not a swimmer lah, separate lah. But it's deep down like swimming for more than 20 years.
Especially since that was tied to you as a child already, right?
Yeah. So I think for me, which is why I started to find, as in not trying to sell myself, but like I started to find a different purpose whereby, okay, what was something that was similar to swimming that I could really transition to lah, and that's why I started my job lah back in 2020 circuit breaker. I actually got my license in 2019. Then but I never started because I wanted to aim for the Olympics, which I didn't qualify. But after that, later when circuit breaker happened, then that was when I officially started work lah. So I wanted to, I mean, I wouldn't say that my identity is as a financial planner now lah, no lah. But I try not to put my identity there. But I think that to have a different purpose, a different calling was important to me. So in that sense, my transition, that was how I managed to transition out to have a like kind of like a soft landing whereby it's not like, oh, suddenly when swimming is gone, I got nothing. But like I did like a half swimming, I would say 3/4 swimming, 1/4 financial planning. Then it became a half. Then now it's like full. So at least it's like the transition is like this way, not like a bam, and then I pick this up.
And I feel like that is something that is needed in a sense of a lot of people talk about quitting. They don't talk about like the pull factors of it, right? It's always like, oh yeah, okay, things are not going well. But actually, if you want to transit well and you want to quit well, right? Then on the other end, there must be something that you are looking for.
It's like called a transition,
So I think and that is a big part of essentially quitting well, right? That means you're quitting into something else, right? And having that time to essentially, go into it, right? And I think that's
having
very
said that, I want to introduce a different perspective because
Yes.
I've heard from different sides of the story, right? My husband has a completely different take on this same topic.
Never quit. Quitting is for losers.
No, as in like he doesn't believe in like slow transition. But I'm with you. I'm doing exactly that, right? And that and I mean, you guys know my stories. I won't bore you guys with details again, but I'm the like that. Right? And his is like, no, just stop. So no more 100%. Go into another 0% and rebuild. And to him, it is because he said when he has 0, right? That's when he's even more motivated. He knows it's like you cannot fail. It is not an option to fail. So then that drives him and pushes him into that. And I think that's also a valid thing, right? It's really like what your personal preference is. Some people just need that. You need to push them into the fire. Then they will come out as the phoenix. Other people, you push them in the fire, burn and die already. Sorry, my feathers all shriveled up. But what we need is we need to slowly adjust and prime ourselves. Then we are ready to take that one final step. So both perspectives.
I used to have that perspective.
Which one?
Go big or go home.
Okay.
Right? I used to have that perspective, which I have come to realize is a super crazy perspective. Like it's very risky. You're not wrong. When you're starving, you will jolly well hunt. Right? You will pick up much faster. Right?
Yes.
It's inevitable. But the risk reward is quite nuts. Right? In a sense that if you really hit it, right, you really go big. Right, like but these days, it's and maybe get old already, right? So the other set of concerns, it's not as linear. Like when you're a bit younger, just go only, right? You got nothing to lose, right? You don't have a lot of things that you're attached to. You're already broke, then why bother, right? But as you move along, you have a reputation to protect, and reputations are important because you can monetize one. It's true, you monetize your reputation, right? So reputation, you got the people around you, the team, your finances, your kids, and then all these things, right? That they become a harder decision to make, like a do or die type of thing. So which is why I think these days when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm gonna quit," so I was like, "Are you naked quitting?" Like 裸辞, right? And then they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Wow, you dare?" Like it's so crazy, and I feel like it is something that more of us have to kind of check in on. Like, you must be a little bit more, you must be a bit clearer on this, in the sense that yes, you are not performing, to the level that you want to go. Fair. That's why we are even entertaining quitting. Right? You're not doing as well, and all that jazz, but where are you going next?
I think the other side of the story also is that, a lot of times we get all these big picture advice, go big, go home, or slowly,
I hate
slowly.
those shit, man.
And the problem is that
chicken soup rotten already. Right? It's like, oh my goodness.
we need to recognize that we need to pair it with who we are as a person, how we deal with feelings.
And
so
I
actually see that from what you were describing. You had that self-awareness of the state of your emotions, your mental and physical self. And at the same time, you knew what it would take for you to get to where you wanted to go next. But some people, right, for example, they just see a successful story of a go big or go home and they take their advice. But actually, they themselves, their character, for example, or their situation, like what we're talking about, may not be the right fit for it. So you need to know, like, at the end of the day, don't just take someone's advice and just apply wholesale. We need to blend it and weigh it against our own situation, figure out what is better. I cannot do the go big or go home.
I cannot. I mean, maybe last time I can. Now it's different. There are more things that are concerned now. So I feel like and like what Sheng Jun said, right? You need to kind of like build out something else on the other end, right? And you can start small on the other side, right? It's like 10%.
That's why side hustle very popular.
Right? It's very popular and it's a great transition, right? It's very risk managed, and I think there's a perverse excitement for like just go crazy, but it's not realistic, and the media has a big part to play in blowing this thing up, because it's more exciting, to cover a story like that. Wow, just sai become amazing, like that story is so much more exciting than like slowly transit 3 years
no one
into the
likes to
next
watch
thing.
a fire slowly go bigger.
Exactly,
They
right?
want to
And
see
the
the boom.
Yeah, exactly, right. So
Hey, we bought at the same time.
Exactly. We get it, right? And because we are in media, I totally understand why these kind of stories get like all the coverage, right? Like 6-year-old kid, like 70-year-old, blah blah blah. It's like 30, it's okay, 30. And then you're expected to do well in that. So what is being expected is not covered. Right, but I think it's great.
And I also do agree, like, I mean, there's like two perspectives. One thing I picked up from what you mentioned just now was that I think with more liabilities, with more people we need to take care of, probably that links maybe has a correlation to how risk, whether you're a risk taker or whether you're risk adverse. So for me, why I planned it this way was because my mom, from young, she quit her job just to take care of us. I have two other sisters as well. Yeah. And then my dad was
and
like,
they're all swimmers, right?
All swimmers,
Yeah.
They're
all swimmers.
I know you as a friend. I didn't even know your whole family is a swimmer. Wow.
Yeah, so from then, my dad was the sole breadwinner. So
then how does he spend 5 hours at the pool with you every day?
Oh, that was when he retired. So
okay.
Yeah, the long story
I was about to ask, where does he work? I also want to explore. Yes, continue.
So he kind of like retired earlier because there was once that's why I today I feel it's just not a pressure but a need and an obligation that I put on myself, that I really need to take care of my parents.
Are you the oldest?
I'm the youngest.
Oh.
But both my sisters are married already lah. So hopefully my turn soon. But we'll
send it link to a certain somebody.
They can
No pressure.
No pressure. People will cancel him.
So my dad, long story short, was that when he was 58, that was when I was still in secondary school. I had a phase of like my teen years whereby I wouldn't say rebellious, but figuring out who I was as a person. And then I had like outside influence telling me that like, hey, you should stop swimming. Why do you swim for what? Like, what are there any Singapore swimmers that actually make it? And now there obviously is like, but at my point in time, it's like very rare. The percentage was so small. It's like you train so hard, like what's gonna happen? Like, are you gonna like do you know your fullest potential? Why don't you go for something safer? And he was a swimmer as well. So I mean, he eventually retired before me lah. But then I was at that spot whereby, maybe I don't want to swim also lah. Cause your friends are all not swimming already, then and don't swim lah. So I told my dad. Then my dad was like, what would it take for me or for you to continue swimming lah? So at that point in time, I was like, I don't want to stay in sports school anymore. I mean, it was just me, my rebellious self. I was like, I just want to go home every day. I want to enjoy life for what it is. I don't want the commitments of a swimmer anymore. So then that was when my dad was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to quit. And then I'm going to just chauffeur you around in that sense. So then I was like, then over time, my commitment slowly grew back again. And that's why he's sitting there 5 hours just to pick me up again.
Yeah.
So I think that
you guys start training at 5 a.m. or something, right?
6. That time was 6. Then after later it was 5:30.
Crazy
Yeah.
one.
I
It's
feel
like,
sleepy.
Yeah.
every time you drive past, then you see the swimming pool bright, right? It's like,
Yeah.
It's so cold.
yeah.
So at that
crazy.
point in time, we were like, it was a half an hour drive to sports school. So when I was up at about 5 o'clock, cause 6 o'clock, so I need about some time to prepare. I was up at 5, he was up at 4:30 to make me breakfast. Yeah, so that's why. And over time, because he retired early, he also this is something that I hold close, and I'm really grateful for. He actually used his retirement portfolio on me to really let me realize my dreams as a swimmer lah. So that's why not qualifying for Olympics really, I was like, wow, that's something that I really wanted to do for my family.
We must get Daddy Pang to come, huh?
Yeah, he doesn't really talk much lah.
No,
Quite a quiet guy,
yeah.
soft spoken, man of few words. But he was a person that showed his love through actions. So I think that for me that was when that's why, like, you know, at that point in time he was really working all his life, same company all throughout, loyal lah. So when he used up his retirement portfolio on me, now as a financial planner, I'm like, hey, actually that if at that point in time I knew better ways to plan for him, I'm sure you know, like, you know, there are always better ways to structure something for people. So at that point in time, if I knew better, then I would have also helped him to plan his retirement better lah. So that's why financial planning, this is by no means an advertisement, but
So I will send you an invoice.
Yeah, but it holds close to my heart lah, because I do see many swimmers' parents also really giving everything to their children. You know, like I mentioned, Asian parents, okay, maybe all parents in general, I wouldn't just say Asian parents, they really want the best for their children. They will give anything and everything. I think similar to us, next time when we have kids, we also give them everything. So with better planning, not only financial planning, but, you know, life planning, family planning, I think that all this can be, you know, not only, it's not really like a sacrificing act, but more like, hey, you know, I still have enough for myself, but I can plan for my children as well. So that's why I think, yeah, that's how I love my job lah, in that sense. Yeah.
Essentially, the go big go home strategy needs to be retweaked lah. Even from a financial standpoint, right? I think that's
exactly.
But what about quitting on a high, right? Because recently I ended my long running podcast. Do you know? I don't know if you know, but I ended my longest running podcast, 200 episode, my monologue, first in Singapore. I think it's very hard to surpass, right? Because a lot of other networks, they are profit driven solely, so they will not let something run for 200 episodes if it's not profitable, right? So
why is Shang sending an invoice for promoting your show?
Yeah. Thank you. I invoiced myself, right? But yeah, anyway, that ended, and I think it ended on the high because it was the best performing show in the whole network, and I ended it, right? Because it was just so difficult to keep up with it, right? There's so much reading, and regularity is a big challenge at that level, and then I just had so many other things to do, you know, at this point in time. So I quit now, but I felt like it was a great quit. I felt like I was very relieved by quitting, you know. I didn't feel like you know, like quit, you know, that kind of maybe right in the the last few days before it was about to announce that, okay, this is the
second thoughts.
And then I was like, yeah, really, you know, because suddenly I got something to say. But anyway, right? But once it's out and it just ended on a high, then it's just like, ta-da! You know, so it's a very interesting feeling, and I think that more people should consider quitting on a high, you know, rather than riding through, like, you know, you're already there already, like, you're not going further, you know, but then you still K there, right?
But like what Sheng Jun said, it's also had the courage to quit, right? And I think the courage to quit at a high is more than courage to quit at the low.
Really?
Right? Yeah, because you're so high already. You're like all that what is. But if I just continue, I can surpass new one. The courage gets to you. I feel it takes more courage.
Because it's something that's working already, right? So
why stop?
Why
why stop something that's working so
No, because the process to keep up with that is very intense.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's something that a lot of people, like, exactly like what you're chatting about. Like, you're really doing okay, well, like, why you want to change, right? Like, you guys you're really performing, like, why you want to change. But I think a lot of people, as an external observer to the person that is running on the high, right, does not realize that it takes so much to keep up with that high. right?
That's why it's also more courage, ma.
Yeah. Fair.
I can relate though because in my own career, I also quit on a high.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at the same company for almost like a decade, right? And I finally climbed to where I had imagined myself right from like the beginning. And I was head of the department, head of 2 departments. I had teams under me, and it was basically I was at the highest of where I could be already like in my line of work. But then I quit to be with my kids. Yeah, and I kept questioning my decision, like you in the last few days, before I finally like threw the letter. I was like, should I? But I finally got here after almost 10 years. If I just continue a bit more and the money is good, I will build my my career is already built, my network and everything is already there. Should I? Is it worth it? Yeah, there's all these questions. I feel it really takes a lot more courage to quit on the high.
But it makes you fully cognizant that you're quitting into something else, right? Because you said that this is for your kids.
Yeah.
Right. So
same also for you, right?
yeah,
you were quitting into something else.
Yeah, I was quitting so that I can handle other things, right?
So
because
you would have the emotional and creativity, the freedom, right? To go and do other stuff.
So running at the pace of being a number one is quite nuts, and I think a lot of people don't recognize that, right? So yeah, it is what it is, lah. Eventually you find a time to stop, right? And I think that's the part that people shouldn't kind of just make it sound very bad, lor. Like it always feels, and society on some level gives you that pressure, and then everybody is like, you really want to stop, it's doing so well, why you want to quit, right? But I just cannot keep up, right? Objectively it's crazy, and sometimes at that level, I think for perspective's sake, right, when you're at that level, your burn rate may be crazy, you may be burning a lot just to hit that one thing.
Yeah.
Right. And
I was
everything
burning
else
out
has
so
to go.
much at that job.
Yeah.
And you were probably too, right? Burning out trying to qualify for the Olympics that intense. You also need to protect your number one spot, right?
Yeah. Now I give up it is. Other people can go and fight their thing. I'm an ancient now. Now I'm a senior in the industry.
But technically no one has beat you.
Yeah. You can try harder, right? Keep trying. Open challenge. Come, let's see how you do a monologue 200 episodes, right? But anyway. Yeah. Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yeah, now back to the show. On that topic of very hard on people that are trying to win it and the people that are like moving down, right? Actually, my producer dug out some article from 2011 about yours. I'm not sure if you are comfortable to talk about it.
Yeah, so
like the whole suicidal type of thing.
Yeah, I think right now in a very comfortable, like good mental health state already, because that has happened 12 years ago. Yeah. So
how old were you when you started having those suicidal thoughts?
Actually those thoughts only happened at that given time. Like because of for me personally, it was very pressure driven. Because 2000, the whole situation was 2009 was my first SEA Games. So I missed out on the medals by 0 point something seconds in the 200 meter race. So it's literally,
tip of the finger.
Yeah. So, but SEA Games is once every 2 years. So I was like, okay, the next one, definitely for sure lah. If everything goes according to plan, then for sure, more or less for medal lah. So, but life is like never goes according to plan lah. The worst can always happen lah. So, but me being a teen, I always think about this should happen. This should happen. That worst has always, like, I try to shut off the worst. That's why now, like you mentioned, I do handle the grief and be aware of, there is that side of things. So I don't shelve it like I did last time. But last time I used to shelve them. So all the bad things I just shelve. I was like, no, this is what's going to happen. And then leading up to the 2011 SEA Games, of course, there was NS lah. It was during my NS days. So I wasn't training at the level I wanted to. But then again, I had that belief, that mental belief that, hey, you know what? No, I'll still get there. Because 2009 results like that ma. So 2011 confirm.
Just stretch my finger a bit more.
You just stretch, yeah,
So you think athletes should be exempted from NS?
No comment. This is somewhere I don't want to comment. But to be fair, my army, my camp and everything, they were very supportive. They gave me leave and everything to go for the SEA Games and to train. And if there was no work for me, they would like sometimes, give me leave and stuff to go and train. So I really am really grateful for them. And
So with that being said, then why were you what led to the suicidal phase during that, since you were getting support as well?
Yeah, because for us BMT there is a mandatory 2 months that we can't swim. We have to be inside. So then the time BMT was, I think mine was in May, then June, July. Then SEA Games was in October, something November. Yeah, so it's very
so
close.
tight.
Yeah. So and I mean, swimmers say lah, for every day you're out of the pool, you need 2 days to get back that same 1 day lah. I mean, but I don't know how true that is. So then that mean I needed like at least 4 months to get back to that level lah. So which I obviously wasn't there. So what led to it was at that point in time, I like to, as in for me, I unknowingly pressure myself sometimes. So then, knowing that the army camp, they were supporting me as well. They're like, hey, Sheng Jun, are you going to bring back a medal? I was like, yes, for sure, man. But I knew deep down, like, hey, no lah, right? But
you think so easy, You think like, oh, what, Bishan Park walk.
But I was like, I shouldn't have also said like, I'm sure, but I wanted to, show that like, to prove that, I was my identity as a swimmer lah. So I told them, and then I told my parents also like, hey, you know what, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to do something. But deep down, that confidence wasn't there. I was just saying it for the sake of like, 2009 was like that, man. So, normal circumstances, this would be okay. So then I went into SEA Games. I told so many people that I was going to win a medal, but was I truly going to win? And then so it's a learning experience for me lah. And then at that point in time, I know like I mentioned, my parents were journeying together with me. So leading up to my races, like 3 days before, every day my mom would write me a letter like, oh, Sheng Jun, you're ready. Mom and dad is supporting you and everything. So every day she would write me a letter. Then every day I would read, and I'll be very touched lah. Like knowing that how much love my mom has shown me. But then again, the other side was like, am I truly ready? So then that was when the pressure really built. And then it built up from ever since like NS, whereby they were supporting me, and then parents supporting me. So the expectations, they didn't have expectations of me. It's ultimately the expectation I put on myself. Yeah, but I made like the expectation I put on myself made me feel like they expected that of me. But actually no, it was all in my head.
Yeah.
So then after that, leading up to the competition, I finished 5th lah, which was worse than my 4th. So it was even worse than the result I showed in 2009. So then that was when it was still okay. Like after my race, I walked to my dad. I was like, hey dad, I did my best. Then my dad was like, yeah, it's okay lah. 2 years time, another one. No, this time no NS really ma. So, but NS is not a problem. I don't know. NS is not. I'm just saying it trained me in here. But I'm just saying the circumstances that it has. That's what it was. The situation. Okay. Yes.
I can imagine. So it's like going from 4th and you expected at least 3rd the next round. Instead, you went back 1 step.
Yeah.
That must have hit really hard.
Was saying,
right?
I don't want to get cancer. I think today got chance.
You are.
But so then my dad he was like, hey, it's okay lah, 2 years time we come back again lor. So I was like, yeah lah, okay lah, 2 years time lah, chill. Then I went to meet my mom. So like I mentioned, my dad is more carefree. He doesn't really talk much, man, of few words. My mom is someone who's more emotional, similar to me. I think I'm a mixture of both lah.
So she was crying.
I don't know whether she was, but I remember vividly lah. She was standing in front of me. I was standing in front of her, and then there was just 1 minute of silence, like legit silence. So then at her left hand, yeah, she was holding a packet of like waffles lah. So then I was like, oh, mom, I did my best, and 2 years time lah. Because that's what my dad said. So I basically transferred. I thought, everyone was on the same wavelength. So then at that point in time, my mom like stood still. We both stood still for like 1 minute. And then after a minute, she's like, hey, Sheng Jun, actually, I bought these waffles because I thought you were going to win a medal tonight lah. But, you didn't. But it's okay lah. Like I bought this so that you could celebrate it with your friends. So I don't know what to do with this now lah. So I just passed to you lah. So she passed to me, then she walked away. So then I was like standing there in the stadium by myself. Then I was like, wow, what just happened? Like from the 2 years time, try again. Then now, boom, like it was a sudden switch. And then I stood there like life has like suddenly just snapped like, like, wow. Like, yeah, so I think it took me about a few minutes to process everything. And then I broke down and I cried lah. So then that was when like all my friends came rushing to me like, hey, are you okay? Like what happened and everything? Yeah, but that's like, oh, it's okay lah. I just bad race, everything. And I I think my eyes were damn swollen back then. I just kept crying. Then the waffles, I also don't know what to do. Then I also cannot tell my friends, hey, I was going to win tonight. Then this waffle celebrate lah. I couldn't celebrate also, knowing that like my mom was very sad. My dad probably, I don't know. And then I went back to our games village lah, which was, I think 4 stories high that time. And then I looked down, and then when I was looking down, I was like, thinking about all the people are disappointed. Like, what am I gonna tell my NS? Like, I told them I was gonna win. Like, obviously I didn't. I'm gonna go back to camp. And then second thing was my mom is so disappointed. My dad, I think, disappointed as well. So I was like, wow, how am I going to face them ever again? So at that point, it's like, usually problem and then there's a solution. But this time, why that thought came was because there was a big problem which was overwhelming. Like all my systems were firing, but there was no solution. So then at that point in time, the only solution was just to end everything. Like it was so much pain that I just needed to get out of my system that, by ending this, it will end all the pain. So to me, that's how I thought about it. Like I just wanted to end all the pain that I'm feeling. And then that was the only way out. So then as I was having standing on the ledge and really contemplating, really thinking and everything, then that was when one of my teammates was like, hey Sheng Jun, what's up, man? He's like, why are you standing here all alone? And I was like, oh wow, you're here. I didn't know. Then he's like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh nothing lah. I said, wait. Then he got me back. Then we sat down. Then he's like, what are you thinking? So I was like, oh, I need to end everything. Like right now, I'm in so much pain. I just want to end everything. So then one thought which really helped me even today, when we are going through all the struggles and everything, he said that, by ending everything for yourself is actually the easy way out. Obviously, the pain for you has all ended. Right? You feel no pain. But how about all the people that has loved you, that is loving you right now? How would they feel? When everything ends for you, they cannot even talk to you anymore. Like how would they feel? Have you ever thought of that? So I was like, yeah, actually true, but they're so angry at me. How am I gonna face them? It's like I got no face to face them now. Like I lost it. Like I was all this that is not supposed to happen has happened. And how am I gonna face them ever again? Then he gave me another perspective. He's like, yeah, but knowing that your mom has passed you this, how would you want her to feel if she finds out that was the last words that she said to you? She'll regret for life. So I was like, oh yeah, that's damn true. So then I became like that phase of just thinking about ending everything for myself to end my pain. But there are so many people that care for me as well. How about their pain? So I think that has really, I learned so much from that experience to know that, hey, we are all facing our own struggles. Like everyone has their own pain. It's how we can really, change our mindset. It's a process of how we can really change and know that, hey, we are not only living for ourselves, but for the people that love us, the people around us. End of the day, we will make mistakes in life. And it's about knowing that whether we make mistakes or not, they will still love us. So it's really about changing my perspective to not be so results driven, not be so like, hey, I need to hit this result before my parents love me. I need to hit that result before this person loves me. But it's more like knowing that, hey, they are in this process with me. We are journeying together. We succeed together. We fail together. So I think that has really changed my approach in life.
Yeah. Wow, as a parent, I feel it so deeply. I'm like, if I was your mom and you really chose to end it, exactly like what your friends say, I'll be like, cannot get rid of the fact that was the last words. I see.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I
just wanted to say, love is unconditional, especially when it's family love. No matter what you did, whether you won or not, like your parents will still love you. Usually as a teenager, we always think we need to hit this, then people will love us. But unconditional love is you don't have to do anything to be loved. You are already loved.
Yeah, well said.
Oh, that's so heavy. I don't know how to continue.
I think this episode need to have trigger warning. I'm getting sad already.
So heavy. Mustang Russell. It's Russell.
Yeah,
right?
Russell. Yeah,
Shout out to you next time you come on the show. Okay. Oh my goodness. So then, how do you reconcile that after the episode?
After that,
you know what I mean? Like you got pulled back. Someone tried to drive some logic into you, or at least just to
How
prevent.
old was your friend?
Russell, I think he's 2 years older, 3 years older than me. So at that point, he was 20 lah.
Oh, actually, it's really also whether you can call it, since you're Christian, God plan, luck, to have someone with that emotional maturity to say that words at the right point at the right time.
And he pulled you in. I think there's some intuition there, It's like hey, no la, you come in.
Yeah.
so
yeah. And I don't know whether, I mean, I'm no position to say this lah, but I think for him as well, Russell, we used to be best friends, and then he had a brother and a sister, and then I think if I'm not mistaken, that was also the year that he lost his sister. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's why made me realize that life is really precious. Yeah, but I will not dive in deeper to those details. But that was what has happened. So I think maybe at that point, that intuition, I don't know. But yeah.
How did you pick yourself up?
Yeah, how do you continue to that journey then?
A lot of crying at night. I think that really helped. That's why the grieving part I do.
Oh, powerful, lovely. Yeah, grieving is lovely.
Yeah, so on the surface, because my mom only knew about my suicidal experience, I think only when my high came, like 2015, there was a high that came. Then that was when I was like, okay, now it's time to really talk about that low chapter. Because when it's raw, I don't want, like, I'm not very confrontational. So I always try to like, okay, when maybe a time whereby it lands on a person softer, then maybe that's the time I talk about it. Yeah, so my mom actually, my parents weren't aware of it. I just kind of like, sometimes I cry. I think crying really helps, to be honest. Like I would be like, oh, why is this happening to me? Everything. So I'll just cry. Sometimes I train, then my goggles will have like tears because I was like, why? Like, because to me, it's like like everything is results driven, right? Like mostly I don't want to pinpoint it.
Especially as an athlete, right? The parameter of the game is results driven, right?
Yeah.
There's no other way. There's no love in it's like you beat the number, that is it, right?
Yeah. So I think that why that affected me a lot is because 2009, 2011 SEA Games, every time we come back from competition, there will be like fans waiting for us at the airport, and then the team manager will go like, okay guys, take out your medals, wear them, and then walk out. And then there will be like 20 swimmers or 23 swimmers, maybe like 20 of them win medals, 3 don't. Then I'm like part of the 3. So then we'll wear our blazers. I'll keep my blazer damn tight. I'll be like faster walk out in a bunch so that no one knows I got no medals. Yeah, so that happened not once but twice. So I think that that actually affected me a lot. And to know, like, although we can always say like, oh yeah, the process, everything, but wow, all these like results are what people see. So I think for me, I really grieved quite a bit lah. Like sometimes I'll be swimming, then I'll be like, the goggles will be filled, but no one can see ma. I just wash like that, okay already. So sometimes I'll be training, and then at night when I'm alone, I do all this in private lah, so that I don't affect the people around me. Even for my parents, I know they're equally as hurt. Imagine if I were to just cry in front of them, how would they feel? Like,
so you kept hearing Russell's words in your head, even though you were grieving. Then you stop yourself. No, this is
correct. For the people that I love lah, and I know that one day that high will come. Not really that high, but one day the process. If I just keep focusing on the process, the results will come. So I did set goals to really stick to the processes, but of course I gave myself time to grieve. So as I am chasing them, I know that no, my mental state now is I'm damn sad. I'm really damn sad. So I gave myself that space. Okay, now it's my time to cry. I cry first. Then I go back to the process again. Yeah, and then eventually it paid off lah. So I would say that the whole process was really painful. But to know that, okay, this is the end goal of where I want to be, but the process is also important to recognize, to be aware lah of your current mental state. Is it sadness? Is it happy? Then if it's sad, then give yourself that space to grieve. That's why my grief is 5 minutes now, because I'm not in a sad state. But my that's why I agree just now when you said that some people grieve.
But back then it was not just 5 minutes.
It was just not just that day. Yeah, it was quite a lot of grief lah. So I think
actually, so if we to unpack this into more concrete steps or how to, right? What I'm hearing is you need to find something else. So in that moment, whenever you're feeling like you want to end it, what clouds your mind is that in that moment, the pain that you're feeling and yourself. Like for myself to end it now. But when you shift that focus away to, hey, it's not just about myself. And you would, like you were saying, you were thinking about your parents, all the people who love you. And then at the same time, you choose to look at something brighter in the future, that there's hope. So it's really thinking about relationships, love, as well as hope in the future. And then that drove you forward. Right? So let yourself grieve, but focus on these to pull yourself away from my pain to others and hope. And that got you through.
I love that's what you heard, because I heard a total different thing.
What did you hear?
What I heard was you must stick to a process, right? That if you want to get something done, you must stick to a tested, proven process to repeat it to get there. But meanwhile, you must manage the emotions that is not linear alongside it. Right, because these days it's very, very hot to say mental health is all, right? You see on TikTok, you see all the Gen Z, mental health is everything, but in actuality, if you're not going to go in for a fight, you will never get a chance to win. Right. So, but in order to go in for the fight, then you must do the grind, right? And if you want to do the grind, then there is a certain level of pain that you need to manage.
Well,
but
I just saw this post just this morning and I reposted it in my Instagram. It says, would you rather the pain of discipline going through the process or the pain of regret?
I also don't want.
Have to choose one.
But actually, I'm quite disciplined, right? I mean, if I think about it, I always thought I wasn't, but after I realized, hey, man, my greed is damn high. I can really keep whacking at the same thing. Sometimes a bit too much. But yeah.
And the great thing is, in this case, you just continue trusting in the process. And you got your high in 2015.
Yeah, 131517.
That's
so
great. That's great.
quite happy about that.
Yeah.
But actually, both brought up some good points there. I think one is more like emotional, one is more like the process.
Yeah,
so
you're not emotional one. That's why the female on this show.
But it's a balance. It's a balance. I think both of y'all are right. Both of y'all are right. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for sharing. I really like what you did. Oh my God, it's very hard to be vulnerable, on set, right? And I really appreciate it, right? So that is great, and we're gonna sum up today's episode, right? Essentially talking about like when should you quit, right? And I think there are a lot of learning lessons, but maybe we go one round. I just kind of share like what do you pick up, like when should you quit, or any aspect of what we discussed today.
Actually, we discussed so much, right? But for me, the biggest takeaway was really the emotional part. Like how to handle the emotions when you're at the point of quitting and then to come back and decide not to quit, as well as the other part of how quitting actually takes courage. I think that's something that isn't really much talked about.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, for me, I guess,
like use your own points. You say a lot today.
Or what would be like the main message you hope listeners would take away from this episode?
Yeah, I think that to really find that balance between, okay, when it's time to be like gritty, or when it's time to work hard, when it's time to chase your goals, and when it's time to quit, knowing that balance, being aware of both, then making your decision based on after weighing both sides. I think that's for me.
Fair. Yeah. So I have to say something, right?
Yeah, what was your biggest takeaway?
Essentially, I feel like the idea here is as we grow older, right, our risk tolerance really come down, not because like age makes you less risky. It's just because you got more things at play
to care about.
Yeah, you got more things to care about. You got more things to be concerned about, right? Which is why you will not champion sustainability, right? And no, something along those lines, right? Essentially, as your risk tolerance become lower, then I think more people, when you quit, it's not just about what you hate now, it's about what you're going for. Right, so you must look into the next phase and let that next phase kind of build up a little bit, so it's a push-pull factor lah. Not everything is a push, right? There must be something that's pulling you through, and I think on some level you will find comfort, if you have a bigger pull factor, right? And I think that is very important, especially when you're moving on the fast track. Right, when you have your kids looking for you, you are sandwich generation, you got your loans, you got everything, you are essentially on the fast track. You cannot really stop, because once it stops, a lot of other things will have to go. These are the parameters of the game, right? So if you're on the fast track, maybe try to look at, what's the pool, where are you going next? So yeah, great. Thank you. Lovely.